the April 26th, 2021 meeting of the Needham Council for Arts and Culture. I really feel like I need to get everybody to say the Needham Council for Arts and Culture together at some point so we can all keep practicing saying it.
Just say NCAC.
I don't really like the sound of NCAC.
No, I don't either.
No.
That's why I said it.
But I would just say the way that I remember it is Needham Council for Arts and Culture, as almost as like an aftermath, because I have seen people writing it in a million different ways recently. So that's the little reminder. Okay, you want to do roll call, Julia? Make sure we have a quorum.
Yeah, absolutely. Charlie?
Here.
Julia here. Gail?
Here.
Joni?
Here.
Kathy?
Here.
Heather?
Here.
Sharon?
Here.
Bala?
Here.
Anne McCaffrey absent. Betsy Mullane absent.
Not attending.
Okay. Yael is absent. Elizabeth Cook
Here I am.
just joined.
You
Hi.
made it. Just in the nick of time.
Perfect timing.
Getting in.
And Sarah. And she, thank you.
Yeah.
And then Corrine.
Right here.
And they are just attendees today,
Yes.
so you don't necessarily have to call them on the roll, but we're
Yep,
glad
they're
to
on my
have
guest
you.
list, so
Yeah. That's great. So we have a quorum, it looks like.
we do, yes.
Okay, here's your introduction to remote meetings. Ready? This open meeting of the Needham Council for Arts and Culture is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the Needham Council of Arts and Culture is convening by Zoom as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. The meeting will then be posted on the town's YouTube channel for posterity. Some ground rules: please make sure to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. And for any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. We fudged that one a little bit, so let's just be careful when we're speaking so we know who's speaking one at a time. And then so note that some attendees are participating by video and some are call-in. So be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Finally, each vote in the meeting will be conducted by roll call. And as a reminder, when we make a motion for voting, please state your full name with the motion, and then also state your full name if you're seconding the motion, and then Julia will do a roll call. I think we might have a vote or two tonight, so that's a little reminder. Whew. Okay, we have a big agenda tonight. It's very exciting. So much has been happening. Woo-hoo, jazz hands. I'm not gonna forget this time, Julia, approval of the past minutes. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the past minutes as written?
Sharon Breitbart, so moved.
Would anyone like to second it?
Joni Shockett, second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Hi.
Anyone opposed? Anyone have any questions about them or notes? Great, moving on. Thank you for that. The first thing we wanted to talk about in our agenda is the town's equity statement. We've passed it out. I sent it last month. And so as a little bit of history, I'm not sure how much everybody got through in reading it or know. In July, the select board started a a working group called the Needham Unites Against Racism. It was an initiative to foster a dialogue about racism in Needham. It came out of a lot of parts, a big movement, I think, in socially in Needham and also in, you know, the United States and the world in general. There are a lot of pieces to it, working groups, listening sessions, the lived experience project, some social justice groups in Needham also came about, I think at the same time, Equal Justice Needham. And then we have the Needham Diversity Initiative. There's lots of groups in town. And so they've been working on this equity statement, basically visions and guiding principles. What they've asked from us is basically to come up, I think they want us to adopt their vision and principles as it's proposed. They also are interested in hearing how we would integrate the concepts into our work plan programs and goals. And I think moving forward, they want to know what approaches and actions we'd be using within our committee, the Needham Council for Arts and Culture. They also mentioned something about having periodic summits. So they do get together and discuss certain aspects. I think a lot of their charge was focused on racial profiling, some kind of public safety issues, housing issues in the town, and overarching racism, equal justice, social justice. So they want us to report back. Would you guys like to read through the racial equity statement, or did everybody get a chance to read it? We can read through it again for the record, or we can just move on to discussing how we want to adopt it in our. So give me a thumbs up if you want me to read it, or whether you want to kind of move on to brainstorming part of this. It's a little long, that's one thing. So
Move
thumbs up,
on.
move on. Okay, great. I like the sound of that. So when I was thinking about it, in our council priorities every September when we're writing our grants, and this year we really focused on diversity in our council priorities by talking about historically marginalized populations. We also encouraged groups that met underserved and in need groups as a priority. So that was one area I was thinking that we've focused on. And then the other action that we've talked about in the Public Art Committee a bit recently was focusing on this mural idea that we've talked about a lot. We had talked about maybe doing a mural that was conceptually like a sign that said all are welcome. That was another idea we had. I think in general, the arts are on the forefront of social change and equal justice. And so I feel strongly that it's important for us to take a stand and adopt the visions, but also go forward with creating art that would support this idea. So that was the things that I was thinking about, and I want to open the floor to everybody to sort of express what they're thinking. Elizabeth, I see your hand, so go for it.
Well, what started out when Charlie asked me to welcome new people became recruitment. And I haven't quite agreed to that, but if I do, I really feel that we need to be much more thoughtful about who has the seats on the council, and that we need to represent more diversity. And so we're coming up on the number of seats we have. I know my time for my first term is coming up, but I think, I don't know how we have that discussion or how we decide, but I feel very strongly that we need to be more inclusive with who we have on our group.
And proactively recruit.
Proactively, yes.
Okay. Anybody else have anything that
Hi,
Go
this
ahead,
is
Julia.
Julia. I have something. I would love, as we get into grant cycles, to be more thoughtful and proactive about providing grants to people of color. And that might require us to do more legwork and outreach to find those artists, but I think it's worthwhile, and would definitely help our community as well. So
Do we know how many grants this year went to people of color?
I don't think we've ever done that research. Part of the question, I think, for me is that because we don't set the application up ourselves, so we
Right.
don't have a lot of, I don't think they collect that information. So that'd be something to maybe talk to the MCC about how we are able to do that. Ask if people want to add an identifier section there.
or it'd have to be tactfully done, but adding that to the research that we do before our voting meeting, to kind of get in touch with whoever's hosting it and get a sense for who they are. I'm not sure what MCC can and can't ask in the application, but or it could just be, if a Black artist in whatever town, reaching out to them and asking them if they're interested in doing anything in Needham or how it relates back to Needham or that kind of thing.
I'd be surprised if they are allowed to ask identifying questions.
Go ahead, Sharon. I don't think you've spoken yet.
I think we can certainly make it part of our priority statement and make it in our application, because we're allowed to set local priorities. And I think we can ask, say that we want to specifically target BIPOC groups and ask people if they would like to self-identify as such.
Go ahead, Gail, your turn.
Yeah, so I was actually thinking similar to what Sharon mentioned, is that since MCC doesn't ask anything, but we could give people the option of self-identifying, but then we already say we give preference to Needham. That's one of our things, and that's kind of a challenge because, to be honest, those two things sometimes conflict. So when we're coming up with our statement for next year, which goes first? Does our commitment to diversity and inclusiveness override the priority to Needham? I think that's a healthy discussion to have. I don't think we know the answer. I think we can evaluate each individually. I do think we have a few diverse groups that we have supported in the past, but we just don't have the data. So I think we have to be very careful how we ask, because we don't want to have people self-identify and say, sorry, you're from Watertown, so we're not gonna have you. So it's a really tough call there, but I do think it's something we should visit.
Okay, Elizabeth, your turn.
Well, I'm a newcomer to Needham. I lived downtown Boston for 62 years. I only lived here 3 years, but I certainly am aware that the select person's election that we just had was seemingly a radical change. I know Mo was is a trustee here and very respected member of the community, and he lost. So we have Marcus, who is a Black Needham resident who's in the high school, and the Indian woman, Lakshmi, who are now going to approve the people who want to be on our group. And heretofore, it seems, just if somebody wanted to and they raised their hands, and Corinne and Sarah J, I welcome you, but if someone raised their hand, we have done nothing proactive that I know about. And I certainly think the time is here if we want to grow in the eyes of the select people who are approving of us. So I just think we have to, somebody needs to sit down with them. Maybe they know of people that are very interested and would never find the website to put their name up, you know?
So it's a matter of outreach is what you're saying.
Yeah, and proactive, as Julia pointed out, you know, we're talking to ourselves. I don't know, you gals maybe know a lot of other people in town. I don't, but.
Go ahead, Bala, your turn.
Yeah, no, I can kind of talk to that. I know Charlie had reached out to me for joining the board here, and before that, I did not realize that I could participate, and I hadn't tried. I know I had taken part in a lot of other local projects, but hadn't thought about joining the council. So I'm sure there are others like me who probably want to be part of it and are not aware. So I can certainly help pass the word along. And I personally know Lakshmi, and I was sort of advocating for them when they were running. So I'm happy to spread the word in the different communities that I'm aware of. So
That'd be great.
How about
and-
some men?
sorry. Oh yeah. I know.
Men too. Well, it's
We
interesting.
We had Ron, but
We were gonna talk about this in recruitment, but Elizabeth brought it up, and so part of the question is that Sarah and Corrine still haven't had an interview with the select board, which I guess is on pause until after town meeting. But one of the questions is apparently there are 10 potential interests for joining the Needham Council for Arts and Culture. I don't know who they are, but we've had emails apparently to the town. So I
And
guess
we
it's
don't
the
control
hottest
that,
council to
right?
be on. What?
we don't control that. We don't have any say in accepting them, do we?
Well, so the process has been a little unclear, and what Elizabeth and I have been talking about is building the recruitment process a little bit more clearly what our procedure is, because if online you fill out a committee interest form and it comes to us, and in the past it's been that you show up to a meeting, I call you, interview, see if you're interested, and then the next step is going to the select board, and from there they make the decision. We don't have any guidelines about who we want or how it's decided. So that should be kind of agreed upon. We have spoken in the past that we want to have 15, because legally we can have up to 22, but we as a group have decided that 15 was sort of our cap that we wanted to have in order to manage the size of the group. We haven't voted on that. It's just a number we've given to the select board, but now as the select board transitions, and I believe the staff is transitioning too, it might be something we want to kind of get in writing. I don't know how you all feel about that, but I feel like 22 is too many for us to manage in a meeting.
But not everybody shows up, which is part of the challenge. Sorry, Kathy, you had your hand up.
No, you're right, but if half of the people don't show up, like at our last meeting, then we don't have a quorum and we can't move
Right,
forward.
exactly.
So it's a little tricky. And we have a pretty small budget, so if we're all working for less than $1,000 per head, I mean, obviously we want to work towards something more, but I think, did everybody get a chance to speak that wanted to? Go ahead, Kathy.
I have a couple of questions for clarification. So first, you mentioned there were about 10 emails, but these are in terms of interest for the council, but you're not sure who they are. But it sounded like you said you are notified when someone's interested. So how do we not know who they are?
They haven't forwarded it to us, so we
Oh.
haven't, yeah, normally in the
We're not-
process, they will, no, Amy mentioned that I think between Sandy and handing things off to Amy, that part hasn't been handed over yet. And I think that there's a pause before town meeting happens. Hi, Amy, I saw you
Hi.
jump in. Did you want to answer
Yeah, I
that?
was just gonna say, they were just forwarded to me on Friday and I'm going through them. So not all of
It's like a
sorry.
I guess I'm not clear what the process is. And then I think we need to know what is the process, and then we can figure out, do we want, does it need ironing out? Does it need, what
It
do we-
absolutely needs ironing out, I think. And I think, Elizabeth, that it needs a policy and procedure around it. It needs, I think it was more informal before, and I don't think we as a council even set guidelines on how we wanted to recruit. So it needs to happen.
But does more of a town process for each of these committees? I mean, do we even have are we even allowed to set our own process? I guess is my question. That's what I'm just
We
wondering.
serve at the pleasure of the select board, I believe.
Exactly.
Yes, we
We
do.
are appointed and they get to decide. It's not up to us. We're transitory, right? It's
Yeah.
not like we own this, so.
There are other committees, I mean, they probably have a process and that everyone follows
Right.
the process. So it's like, we can't just say, this is what we want, I guess. I'm just wondering. But so that was one question I had. The second question is on the diversity issue in terms of artists. Was my understanding that as long as the artist didn't need to be from Needham, as long as the artist or the program was serving Needham, right? So I understand that, the diversity in Needham is difficult as far as, who the artists might be. But if you have someone from Boston that is diverse coming to Needham to do a program, well, that would certainly qualify, as long as they're serving Needham or doing a grant. I mean, that's how I guess I was unclear that the artist needed to be from Needham.
No, they don't. And that's what I was getting at is I think there's lots of artists out there. We just have to find them and see if they are already planning or are willing to do their work in Needham to serve our community.
Yeah, I was just hearing like they were, like we only had Needham, which we don't. I was just.
No, it's just a priority.
Yeah.
It's on our list of priorities and how we choose people.
Right, but it's just as long as they serve Needham, they can come from anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Well, my understanding is if you wanted to serve on this group, when I came in 3 years ago, there were lots of openings. And so a lot of people raised their hands and said and the select board took whoever was interested. I think the dynamic has totally changing and we have to change with it. So I would just also offer that we have this automatic, if you served for one term, you're going to have another term. And I think we need to revisit that as well.
I don't think it's up to us though, is it?
Yes, we get to say.
Oh, we get to decide if we want to do another 3 years?
Well, yeah.
We as an individual can decide that. We don't have to.
You
go
don't
back.
have to serve the whole 3 years as well. If you.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about creating openings for more people in the town to serve. That's what I'm talking about.
But you're saying you don't have to, you're saying after 3 years you could leave.
There's a process for staying on another 3 years, as I understand it. Again, Kathy, none of these things are very clear. And I wouldn't even know how unclear they are, except that Kathy gave me the name recruitment. And I thought I was just in charge of welcome. And so when I examined what recruitment meant in my mind, I saw that we were missing.
Well, I think like I was saying before, it's not just our not our organization. It's not just us as a council. I think it's how does this process work for town boards and committees? I mean, we're not, standing alone here. It's a town process.
Exactly.
Correct.
But if we want to be popular, we better go with what the town is heading towards.
I don't think we can go against the town. Period. I mean, it's like.
I will say that the
Maybe
town.
that's clarify with them. What is the process? I think is part of what we're saying.
So I will say that your input is very much valued when making recommendations to the select board, but I will get clarification so that for next month's meeting that everybody will be very clear in understanding how the process works. So
I guess if it's documented somewhere,
Thank
that
you.
would be helpful as a good start.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and I think we're on a precipice. I don't think a lot of committees have gotten filled up before, because it rolls over, and I think it, you know, it probably ebbs and flows. It's a product of our times and how wonderful our organization has been recently.
yeah, I mean, some boards are, people are appointed. I mean,
Yes.
that's not how this particular, how the council works, but, you know, there's a process that's in place. It's just a matter of, is it documented and what is it?
Okay, and just so you all know, the Cultural Council has been, the Massachusetts Cultural Council has been actively advocating to change the law so that cultural council members can come from double organizations within government, because the trend for cultural councils is to not have enough members. So having too many members is not often a cultural council issue. More often they can't fill the 5 seats that are required, and so they're actually actively working to change that state law. Go ahead, Gail. I see your hand.
Gail Lustig. So I think as a takeaway, and Amy, thanks for offering to help. I would love to just see, just like we have specific criteria for our grantees that we agree on, I'd love to understand the criteria used by the select board if they have to choose from among the people that are applying. Because it would just, and it would just be nice to know, like, why was a particular person chosen over another? Because say they even fill it to 22, if there's, you know, 12 people interested, we're not going to be able to take all of them anyway. And I come from, when I joined the Cultural Council, we were struggling to get 6 members. So Sharon remembers those times. Her and I are the only leftovers from that time. So this is just, it's a wonderful problem to have, but we also want to make sure that however people are joining, you know, it'd be great, for example, that they at least had some cultural involvement. You know, they don't have to be someone who participates, but that, you know, why do you want to be on the Cultural Council as opposed to, do you just want to be on a committee that lets you like give out money versus I'm interested in the Needham Culture Council for Arts and Culture. Got it, Charlie. For these reasons, like I'm a big theater person and music person and art person, and that's why I'm interested.
Yeah. Great. Well, I'll talk more with Amy about that as we move forward. But I like, let's first, can we adopt the racial equity statement as written?
I make a motion to adopt the equity statement. So
Sharon seconded.
Gail Lustig for make the motion.
Julia, would you do a roll call for that?
Yeah, absolutely. And then also Heather had her hand raised before we stopped
Okay.
talking, so I just want to make sure she got her
Okay.
her notes in. Was it about what we were talking about, Heather?
Yeah, just really briefly, that when, just probably being repetitive, but when I did have my interview with the town, they did ask me why I wanted to be on it. So it wasn't, you know, I think you did have to make that clear. It wasn't big and scary or anything, but you did have to say like, why are you interested in this? What part? Tell us about yourself, kind of thing. So that's all. I think there is some, I'd like to give him credit for that. So that's all.
Yeah,
Okay.
the same thing. I was asked directly what my connection was to arts and culture.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Because my interview was like, we need people. Okay, good.
Do you breathe? Do you breathe? Can you speak? Can you read?
In my interview, they tried to get me to join
questions.
town meeting instead, actually.
They did ask a few questions, but
They're
still.
watching you for something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Julia, and then we can.
That isn't how
talk
it
more.
works. That isn't how it works.
All right, so I'm going to do a roll call. Charlie,
Yay.
Julia, yay. Gail,
Yay.
Joni,
Yay.
Kathy Friedberg,
Yay.
Heather,
Yay.
Sharon,
Hey.
Bala,
Yay.
and Elizabeth.
Yay.
Okay.
Wonderful. That's exciting. So I'll report back to the select board that we've adopted the vision and principles, the equity statement. Also, I'm going to report back what our council priorities have been in years past, and that we'll be working on those again in August, September, with an active focus on recruiting groups that focus on marginalized populations or are artists of BIPOC. I thought as our active step that we could talk about the mural idea. We've been wanting to do a mural for a while. We talked about in our public art committee, we weren't quite sure what the concept behind it would be. We have talked to an owner who was interested in having an artist of color be the muralist in this one location. So I feel like this would be a fabulous concept for this mural and a really good emphasis behind why we want to do a mural. And we can do a major call where we're looking for an artist of color. We could do a call where we're looking for a mural concept that really is about anti-profiling or a welcome statement for the town, a community mural. We could go in a lot of different ways. Are you all supportive of the idea of this concept for a mural? Joni and Heather are the leads in the public art committee subcommittee. And so they have been talking about writing this. And so now we'll actually have language for them to write around this. Any other suggestions for this idea? Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah. Let's just, because I've been thinking about the idea and what would kind of fit in this town visually, or what might be a nice way. And one of my thoughts was to not have it necessarily be super literal, like we accept every person, you know, we're not racist here, or but even doing something that is visually, I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but I did like what you were saying, Charlie, about having some sort of
the anti-profiling language, or
no, there was something else. The all are welcome is nice, or something similar to that.
There's a placard program at Equal Justice Needham. Did you guys all read that? It's a sign that's called the placard program, where it's "You are welcome," and they had these signs put up in many of the stores. So that's kind of one of the ideas.
Okay.
Go ahead, Joni.
I just was going to say, I also like something that is maybe like a visual cue of something that's inclusive, that has some sort of design element that comes from different cultures. You know, so you have that as an actual visual and not just the verbal, because I think people really respond to visual imagery as well.
Well, we could make the call a little bit more broad and have it address diversity, and it could be by an artist of color, or it could be, I mean, that doesn't have to be required. It could be that, it could be that the statement is a welcoming statement and that it speaks to equal justice, or you know, a visioning statement of a person of color as the, I don't know, as the actual art design itself. We could keep it broad in the call, or we could be more specific. Go ahead, Gail, I see your hand.
I guess the only thought that comes to mind is, if we're doing a mural, it's going to endure. And so faces of people, not necessarily that we want to do, but also some statements. Like I'm looking at the placards and it says like Needham an equal justice town, which is great. It's a fantastic message for the times. But will that message change? Will the wording change? Like people, you want to choose a message that endures, that means hopefully the same thing to everybody, because equal justice, like probably to a lot of us on the call means the same thing, but I don't want to assume that it does. So I think we want to make sure that it's something that will resonate. Just like I'm having trouble articulating it, but we don't want to look at it 3 years later
Right.
and said, what does that mean? Like, why did we use those words? We want something that's very universal, like the hands, the different color hands or something like that. I just think we really want to consider how we use our words and how the images, so that it does endure and we don't look back and say, oh, we really should redo this because what were we thinking? I know it's hard to know the future, but I think there are choices we can make in that direction.
Gotcha. Well, as I envision it, and I don't know if everybody else does, this would be a pretty long-term big project of ours, probably the largest public art piece we would have. And so we would build a full call. The call would be inclusive, broad, but with a theme. We would try to spread it as far as possible. It would have a larger budget and a selection panel of jurors from the community, probably from groups within the town. I see it as being a longer term and heavily managed project, and not a quick selection of an artist in town and getting it up on the wall. Go ahead, Joni, I see your hand.
I've been doing a lot of research on murals. I've done a lot of, my Pinterest boards are overflowing, but I've also done some research on how do you decide on what to do. And one of the things that comes across from all that I've read is that you cannot be preachy and you cannot be didactic, and you can't decide on a philosophy in a mural that will divide. And so words like all are welcome sound really beautiful. And of course, that's what we want. But even something like that, and I saw exactly those words, can be divisive and can spawn all kinds of controversy. I think that we have to remember we are looking for art to represent things. So we may not have words, but one of the ones that I saw that I really liked was a mural that had a lot of words on it, some of them in children's handwriting, some of them in adults' handwriting, where they asked people of the community to come and write their words down on a piece of paper that they would like to see representing their town. So there's an idea like that, listens to people's voices. But I think that we need to remember we're art to speak to what the concept is, not the words which have weight and meaning that are different for lots of people. What it means to us here in this committee may be different from what they mean to something else. So I'd like to see more art, maybe fewer words, and I'd like to see what the artists have to say and get the space and go in order.
So if I see some general, do you all feel like the mural is a thumbs up? We should move forward with that? Okay. Okay,
Absolutely.
So then I think that would be given off to the Public Art Committee to write something, and then we'll review it. We'll probably bring it back for an RFP to the next council meeting and discuss it further then. And that will be part of the things that we're adopting as part
Do you
of
want
this
us to write
statement.
something up for next meeting to,
Yeah,
like
we
a
can.
proposal, like a
Yeah, we can talk
idea?
offline. I'll show you some maybe I'll send
Okay.
you some examples, and we'll talk in subcommittee. And that reminds me, subcommittees are now subject to open meeting law, which I think I've mentioned to you all. So that's going to make some of our work a lot slower and more difficult, because any subcommittee that meets now has to have an agenda and posted, and so it's a little bit more complicated, but we're still going to get it done. I saw some more hands, and I wanted to move on to the next thing unless people go ahead, Gail, you have something?
Just really quick. So I
Okay.
know that the subcommittees, like, for example, the art box, we've given them kind of the go ahead to make the choice themselves. I
Yeah.
think something like this, like you say, a long-term major project,
Yeah.
probably should be something that comes back as a final okay for the full council. It's
Well,
just-
voting can't happen in subcommittees, so anything that has to do with finance or I think approving the RFP itself would have to come back to the full council.
Right,
to-
but choosing, like, for example, we're not gonna choose the art box as a council. That's done.
No, it isn't. Actually, tonight we're gonna be,
Oh,
the
okay.
recommendation is
Okay,
coming.
so
through.
that's a change. Okay,
I think it always was it.
we just
is-
didn't do it.
It just, yeah, we
Okay.
just worked on it and then we bring it back for the official vote. Any
Never
other questions?
mind.
Yeah, we voted officially. We made a recommendation to the full council last time.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder. Okay, should we move on to the next? Kathy, you got a quick one? Go for it. No, go ahead, it's all right.
No, I guess I feel that the process about, or sort of ignoring the owner here of anything, we're kind of moving ahead with, let's come up with a proposal, a theme, and we're not really thinking about the person's building and having that person, that owner, part of the process. And I think that that's something we were hearing from the owner, that at least one owner we talked to wanted to be part of the process.
Mhm.
So I don't want to lose sight of that.
No,
I also think that, we can think, oh, this is how I agree with Joni, that we can't say, this is what we want it to look like. When we give, we come up with a theme like we did on the art boxes, and we expect the artist to provide us with a
I'm sorry,
variety.
say that again?
I said, we come up with the theme with the art boxes, and then we expect the artist to come back with the ideas, and then we select. We obviously aren't going to be the ones to say we want it to look like this and look like that, because that's, we don't want to give them, we want their ideas. So and I just agree with Joni that
Keeping it broad,
keeping it broad,
right? And keeping the site, yeah,
giving us the ideas and the art.
right. And we definitely, if we have a site selected, that it would have to be site specific and work with the owner
Well, I mean,
recommendation,
I
obviously.
think because if someone's saying, well, I think it would be good for them to know sort of the size that they're dealing with. I mean, maybe something they're only, I don't know, I'm not an artist, but I would think they might like to know that they're going to be good if it's 6 feet by 8 feet versus 6 yards by 8 yards.
Right, and I'm sorry, the call that I mentioned, it's called an RFP, and it would be a very long, complicated piece that would include all of those pieces.
Yeah,
And,
no, of course.
yeah.
But I'm just saying that it has to be, I'm more concerned about the owner, and not because I'm pro-owner. I'm just saying if we have a location, we can't lose sight of that there's another party involved. It's not just us, and it's not just the town's art box. It's other people involved here, especially if we're expecting that owner to be part of the funder or a significant funder. So.
Yes, okay. The next order on our agenda is the Public Art Committee. So I was going to start, actually, can I share my screen for a second, Amy? Is that possible? I was going to show you guys a couple of pictures. We started today with the Jersey barriers, which was one of the projects that the Public Art Committee was tasked with. So that was really exciting. I have some pictures.
You should be able to share now.
Thank you. Heather Simmons has done an amazing job. She got, I think you guys all knew that she got Sherwin-Williams to donate some paint. Let's see if I can present this nicer so you don't have to see all the junk on my desktop. So Sherwin Williams donated the paint and paint supplies. This is in front of Sweet Basil. So this is them. They started painting today. It's a really exciting artwork. Tova Speeder is the lead on the artwork. And then these are the three other artists, John Judge, Nicole Donson, and Dina Trone Krasnov. Each of the artists will have one jersey barrier that transitions into the next. So it's a really kind of cool segue. They'll be working on it on the next few days. So if you can see the this first artist then transitions into the second artist, and then the third here. And the theme is kind of spring and pansies, because they worked with the Sweet Basil owner to have that happen.
Fabulous.
Yeah, so and
Amazing.
Needham Channel is going to come out and film a little bit tomorrow. I answered some of their questions today. We are paying the artists, and the Needham Revitalization Trust Fund has donated money to the artists. So both we'll be putting in the $500 that we agreed upon last time, and they'll be putting in $500. So all four of these
That's
artists
amazing.
are
That's
getting
great.
paid. This is really exciting. Tova will be getting a tiny bit more because she organized all the group from Gorse Mills. And then hopefully we'll get another restaurant, Ponchos, and I think Heather and Bala have agreed to work together to get that second location happening. Oh, and this is, we also got paint donated. This is Jose. And he is the partner of Jay, who owns the French Press. So he's a professional artist. And so we got some paint given over to him. He wasn't paid because they selected him, but so he painted these in front of French Press. Yeah, so
And
that's
is it on one side, Charlie, or is it both sides?
both sides. Yeah, both sides. And there has to be police detail when you're on the street side. So Amy did an amazing job of getting that set up. And so they'll be painting that. And then the other project we're still working on is Storefronts Needham. This is the third rotation of shows going into 1502. And this is one of the posts from Facebook that we've been posting a little bit on there. And it's a pretty good reach for some of our Needham based stuff. So that's exciting. And now the next Storefronts Needham project is going to be, the Art Emporium in Victoria Regional Bridal is going to have the Needham High School. Can you see this? 32 to 36 Chestnut. So the Senior Studios show is going to go in there next week sometime, and they're going to be putting pieces in here in both windows before their senior showcase on May 17th and 18th, I think. And then if this space is still available, the Art Emporium won't be available, but if the bridal space is still available, Needham Open Studios has reached out to me because they also have 3D work and they'd like to show in there. So they're an organization that can get something into the space pretty easily. And they didn't need any display or anything. So that's basically where Storefronts is right now. And I don't know if you all knew, but Amy did an amazing job. They just got a grant to do pop-up retail spaces.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Awesome, really incredible take on getting work in these empty spaces too. So that's the update on Storefronts.
Fabulous.
Yeah,
That's
Thank you
amazing.
all.
it's exciting. Yeah,
And didn't you say that some people sold their artwork too? So that was.
Yeah, Nancy sold an art piece, and it was and just I think the feedback has been so amazing. The Needham Art Association has said they've gotten a lot of members just because of Storefronts.
Great.
A lot of new members, a lot of interest, younger. I don't know if you can see this on this piece. Whoops, sorry. This piece in the middle, this is a high school student. And she is new to Needham Art Association. So I think it's really increased their visibility. And we had a story in Boston 25 News. We've had the Needham channel pick it up, the Patch. There's been some pretty good press. So I think it's been a really positive experience all around.
Is something going into Art Emporium?
Yes.
Yeah.
What? Does anybody know?
Is it? I don't think it's been released yet. It's nothing you're going to be excited about, though. It's not
okay.
art, so.
No.
It's an orthodontist's office.
Wah, wah.
Ugh,
Another orthodontist
At least it's not a bank.
or a nail
Okay.
salon.
thank
Well, then-
God.
I'm sorry to ruin this, but this is the next Art Box one, so I guess we'll skip to this. This is the recommendation of the Art Box Committee. It's a work by Emma Curry. She's a high school student. So we had 3 top artworks, and this was the highest one for our location on Great Plain Avenue and Central Avenue. It's very colorful, poppy,
Fabulous.
and so we wanted to make sure that the whole council was on board with this piece. Do you think we should do a vote?
Did you want to tell them what the theme was?
Oh yeah, the theme of the, and I'll show you the next 2 too. Thanks, Kathy. The theme is climate change. So this piece was called Save the Bees, as you can see. The other 2 pieces we got, this is
Wow.
Yellow Perch. And the other top one was Edible Mushrooms of Needham, which everybody loved, but there was some discussion about having mushrooms, edible mushrooms as a liability on an art box.
Yeah.
But so we're recommending Emma Curry's piece for the location. We also talked a little bit about maybe continuing the Art Box project. So I've spoken to Betsy about fundraising for another Art Box, which she's totally game to do. I've also talked to Yael, who is the location scout. There is a location on South Street and Dedham Avenue that was supposed to have a high school artwork installed by the Revitalization Trust Fund a couple of years ago, and that never happened. And Paul said we could totally do a piece. Everybody loved these fish really so much, but they didn't really work in the location we selected. So it's possible they could work in this South Street, Dedham Avenue location because it's right next to the reservoir where people love to go fishing. I have pictures actually of, it's this box right here.
That's a
Not
great
the most
location.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great location. The poles here are a little bit annoying, but it's a
Yeah.
smaller box, so it actually might be a little bit less expensive.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to make a motion to approve Emma Curry's box, and then the potential for Aiden Keene's box for the fish location at Dedham Avenue, we could do that based on our funding.
Is Aiden Keene also a high school student or?
Yes, he is.
And the mushrooms were, who did the mushroom one? Just curious.
Phoebe Shubin, she's a very talented artist. And actually, one of the recommendations of the Art Box Committee was to try to find a way to get this mushroom piece on like a postcard, or I was thinking of maybe reaching out to Needham Community Farm if they needed something.
Is this also a high school student?
This is a
or-
high school student as well. It's
Wow,
incredible,
that's
right?
really,
Yeah, they
great.
were all high school students. There was a lot of amazing pieces. These just happened to be the top 3. And we're gonna get, after tonight's meeting, I'll get back to the high school teacher, Maria Sartori, who's also the teacher we're working with on the storefront, to let the students know. And we are thinking of kind of saying that we loved so many of the pieces. Maybe honorable mentions to these top 3. They were very professional. And the other piece that I didn't mention is Jay Chow and Sasha Nathan were our 2 student jurors from the high school that were the most professional students. They gave just the best commentary, most thoughtful advice on how to move forward. I thought they were really amazing. They were a really great addition to our selection committee. We were lucky to have them. So that was pretty exciting. So would anyone like to make a motion to accept Emma Curry with the potential for Aiden Keene's work as a 4th box?
Can we keep them separate until we get funding for, agree on funding for the second box?
Do you want, you can make a motion, have it
I'd like a
approve
motion.
it only based on whether Betsy's able to get funding for it.
I move that we accept Emma Curry's piece for the box that we have already funded.
Second.
Julie, you want to do a roll call?
All the questions.
Yes, just one second. Okay. All right, roll call. Kathy
Aye.
Friedberg.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I'm switching it up this time.
Aye.
Thank you. Heather Simmons. Heather.
Trying on mute.
Unmuting. Aye.
Thank you. Elizabeth.
Yay.
Bala.
Aye.
Charlie.
Aye.
Julia. I. Gail. Motion. Joni.
Aye.
That's everyone.
Great. That's
Actually,
exciting.
Sharon did the motion.
I
Oh,
know,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. Yes.
And
Oh, maybe I
Joni
don't need to vote because I did the motion. Gail seconded.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so did you want to
Joni-
table the
Joni seconded it.
fish
I second.
until Betsy gets funding, or does someone want to make?
I would
a
like
move?
to, I would like to defer until we actually have funding as opposed to voting on something we don't have funding
I would agree. But I
Yeah.
would strongly encourage Betsy to
for. To pursue.
secure funding for another one.
I don't see the funding as being an issue, and my only thing is that my thought was to have the two move forward as together in the process. Emma's piece obviously has to have some design issues, and I feel like there'll be some economies of scale if we do two pieces through the process itself, just because the next steps will be getting it on in front of the select board and then bringing it to the design review board. And then working with the installation and company.
Do we
And
have the measurements of the other box? Because it's very different sized.
Yeah.
That's a step that the
design
installation
company.
company does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you show the bees one more time? Just sorry. Is it possible to bring it up again?
Yeah, you want to see it?
Mhm. Yeah.
Sure.
Sorry to. So that's the one you said it has to be designed a little bit differently to fit.
In my opinion, I just see that there's pencil mark on top of
Yeah.
the art, so I don't know how that would actually get printed. I'm not the designer, so I feel like there'd be a little more design work involved in.
It
Getting
needs to be, yeah, I think it needs to just be cleaned up for something
Yeah.
that's going to be
Yeah.
digital, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But we know that Anne had to do that as well. So I
Mhm.
mean, I think that's going to happen with whatever piece there is. The artist is going to have to work with the company to make it.
Yeah, I'm not a designer, I don't know, but it looks to me, Anne's image wasn't broken up by lines though. So I don't know how that will work.
Charlie, what's the cost of each of these boxes?
About $1,500,
$100.
$1,410 or something.
Okay, thanks.
Charlie, in,
Elizabeth, go ahead.
in light of your comments about managing the process through the select people, et cetera, I'm happy to suggest that we move forward with the fish pending funding, because I agree. I think the location is terrific, and the high school children are going to be moving on perhaps. So if it's your recommendation that we do them both, I'm happy to go along with that.
I second that motion. Julia Gould.
So I heard a motion from Elizabeth Cook to move forward with the fish box pending funding, and a second by Julia Gould. Do you want to do a roll call and discussion first? Go ahead, Gail.
We do have money in the account, so I would not feel comfortable moving forward pending funding, but I would feel comfortable saying we can use the money that we have with the idea that we do want to replenish our funds as soon as possible. And if possible, get a sponsor before we print it so that we can put it on the box. I mean, I don't want to vote on something that's iffy, like pending funding. I would rather say we'll use the funding we have. If we find a sponsor, we will use that money and recognize them in the final design.
Okay.
How much?
I
Well,
see
I
lots
didn't
of
do my
questions.
treasurer's report yet, but
Yes, that'll be next.
not-
Sharon, did you have a question still, or you're still?
No, it's gonna be the same one as Kat. I think before I
You want to know how
vote
much
on
we
that,
have?
I want to know how much is in our account.
Okay. Do you want to, Gail, do you want to give a treasury report now then, if it's based
Sure.
on that, or,
we can table the motion until after the treasurer's report.
Yeah,
okay,
that's,
great.
So,
Let's table that motion and we'll move on to the MCC grant update. Oh, actually, recruitment update. We talked about this already, recruitment. I feel like we talked about it a bunch. And I think we have enough to move forward on that one. And Elizabeth, I'm not gonna rope you into doing all parts of recruitment. Okay, and then MCC grant update. Go ahead. That's all you, Gail. Go for it.
Okay, so first of all, we did receive the grant money from MCC. It took a while, but we did receive it and checks are going out. I have to do a reconciliation. I just got a list today of all and copies of all the checks. But I believe there are 5 people left. Don't hold me to it, Julia, but I believe there's 5 people left that we haven't gotten their paperwork from yet. I think even though we tell them again and again and again that they don't have to finish their project first, they still wait till after their project and then give us like, this happened. But we did send out a bunch of the checks. So from a grant perspective, we're doing very well getting that money out to the artists. And I think the entire council has access to the spreadsheet. If you want to look, there's a paid column that shows you when they were paid and sent out to the grantees if you're interested at all. So first I want to say I apologize to you, Heather. There was a lot of back and forth of dozens of emails and missed meetings and starts and stops with meetings. So I apologize that you weren't included in that, but I think Charlie had like 3
I think you
meetings.
mean Sam, right? Sam
Oh, Sam,
is
sorry.
gonna be our potential.
Oh, that's right. I was thinking
treasurer.
it was Heather, but yeah.
Yes.
So, oh, that's right. Sam's not in today, but
Yeah.
anyway, lots of meetings with Amy and Charlie and I and Michelle, and I think we finally have settled things out dollar amount wise. So combining all the accounts outside of the grants, we have roughly $5,900, and I'll get you a more accurate number. So that includes the $1,500 for the one art box. So we actually do have, so if you take that out, doing math in my head, somebody help me out, it's 44.
Yeah, we have almost $44,000.
Yeah, which is great. So we have money. We did roll the accounts together. So we have the grant account and we have the other account. So we have about a little over 4,000, I think. We did pay the 200 to the Needham Art Association that we approved at the last meeting. And then minus the $500 to the artists that we have not yet paid. So we're still pretty healthy and have about $3,500 to use without additional fundraising.
And about $1,400 of that has been granted to us from the Community Arts Fund, which is a recent grant from an account Sandy Sincata had managed for events in town.
Yeah. So that was very generous. And so we do have money to fund another art box and also some of the projects if we wanted to, you know, get started on things such as the mural. We obviously want to do a lot of fundraising because those things are expensive, but we do have some funds that we can use. Just a reminder though, the process in town is we do have to, if we're paying a business, they have to be part of the approved list. And I know somebody had asked for like an approved list from the town, and it's pages and pages and pages. And usually what we just do is say, here's the 3 places we're thinking of. Are any of them approved? And that's kind of how we do business and use the funding. So, but it's good to know that we have a healthy bank balance. I've been saying we have, but it's good to know that we finally got the account settled and I know we have the money. So any questions to Charlie or I?
It's
Or
exciting
Amy,
that we have some
very
money that
aware.
we didn't know
Yeah.
about.
It
Yeah.
is very exciting.
Do we have an estimate?
So,
or- sorry.
Kathy, do you want me to withdraw my suggestion, and Gail, do you want to replace it, or how do you want to?
Yeah, so I was gonna amend it, but we could just withdraw it, that I would say that I make a motion to choose Emma's picture for the
I
fund.
think we already did that one, so it's
We passed
whether or
on
not
that.
if it.
We
Can I
passed
ask
it, so-
questions before we
Yeah.
move this question? Do we have an estimate of what our cost might be for the mural that's coming down the line?
It could be a lot, depending on the design and stuff, but I don't know.
I would say
thoughts?
three
I guess
to
I don't
$7,000.
I don't understand the
Right.
urgency of moving ahead right now with making the decision on the box. I mean,
Yeah.
I think if we put it off a month, nothing is gonna change. Betsy may get a donation by then, and we'll be making we can make a clear decision. It may mean a second visit to the select board for final approval, but I'm given that I feel like there's lots of projects coming at us now, and there's all sorts of cool things that we might want to fund, and I don't feel necessarily an urgency to spend this money until we see if perhaps Betsy can fundraise for it.
Okay. Well, what happened in the Art Box Committee, I'll say, is that we agreed to fund Emma Curry's project, and that was it. There wasn't a
Right.
recommendation for the second one. So, and the way that the Art Box Committee was set up was to do 3 art boxes, and we can complete that project, and that would wrap up the committee, and it would wrap up the electrical boxes, and that would be the end.
So to speak.
That would be an end, so to speak. I did hear word from people afterwards that there was still interest in maybe doing another box. The fish scored highly, people liked it. And I feel like there's urgency that is a piece we want to move forward with within this call for the high school to complete all that together as one process. There wasn't a recommendation to move forward with a 4th art box, so we can leave it with Emma Curry's recommendation and just move forward. And we obviously have a lot of other projects going on. I personally don't feel like we can manage a 4th box if it's not within the parameters, or I don't feel like I can move that along as well as some other projects. So I think if we're going to move forward with a mural, it probably would be time to put the art box, retire the art box committee and projects and move forward. But
I'm
it's
actually,
either way.
I'm good with that.
I saw that the average prices of murals is somewhere between $7,000 and $16,000.
Yeah.
so I would actually like to reserve our funds that we have, and I just,
Yeah,
that's
my
my-
intention wouldn't have been to use our funds.
but I
Betsy,
will.
as our fundraising lead, thinks it's easy to fundraise for an art box. She doesn't have a lot of faith in fundraising for a mural because she feels as if that mural would have to be based on the location, and that whoever the property owner would have to have some financial interest in this space as well, which, I mean, it's open to discussion. Go ahead, Heather.
I'm bringing it another direction. So if it's a no, that's fine. But I'm just wondering if we're reliant on a business, what if it were to be on a town building, a town-owned building instead? Or is the idea of having it be on a private building that we get sponsorship for it from the,
You're saying the mural.
yeah, sorry, for the mural, sorry.
The original idea behind the mural project was we found some locations we were interested in. That was our lead towards why we had chosen our public art committee had looked at lots of locations. We didn't really have a concept behind the mural. We just saw some places we thought would be great to have a mural. Now we have a concept, so that was a lead, but we didn't really have a concept. Now we have a concept, and we're hoping that we can pair that with the location and find some funding somewhere and make it all work. I think usually you either have the lead of the location or the concept of the mural, or you have the funding. And but so I think we can kind of see if it all merges in one magically.
It's a lot to, I think it can happen, but I was just curious if that was an option.
Well, there is history with murals on town buildings in the town because the schools have.
Yeah,
murals.
we have Newman, we have Pollard.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's
Elliott has one, I think.
not that it hasn't been done. Pollard, certainly Hillside. I'm just thinking maybe most of the schools, elementary and Pollard. So, I mean, it was certainly done. I wasn't involved in the process. I know someone that was. So, I mean, it's certainly possible finding the right building and asking the right question. Certainly.
But I think it is nice to do it. I mean, on the other hand, it's nice. I'll say one more thing, which is just, it's nice to have it on more visible to the rest of the public rather than just the school.
Well, no, I understand it probably wouldn't be a school because I think the schools all have most of them have a heavy mural. And I also think finding another public building that might have a spot might be something we could certainly look to see if there is one. The fact that they have some public buildings with murals is sort of a precedent that we could really say like, gee, you've already done it before. Why wouldn't you do it again? But I think, I mean, it would still come down to us needing to fundraise. Whereas if you're on a private building owner and we're hoping that they would contribute to it, it actually might be easier for us to fundraise. We'd have that, plus other opportunities for fundraising. So anyway, it's just my input.
Okay, so in terms of, I think fundraising for the mural will be a big project, and we'll have to convene around that as well, not just have Betsy. I think that will be a whole group effort, and might be
Just a brainstorming even.
We'll have to brainstorm
Yeah.
about that. In terms of the fourth art box, I don't hear there being a huge push to move forward without fundraising for it. So I'd say that we take the recommendation as proposed by the Art Box Committee, go forward with Emma Curry's third piece, and goodbye. We can retire the Art Box Committee after that piece is installed, and we have a big party for those three and move forward. And we've done what we set out to do. So I think that's a huge accomplishment. Okay. Any?
Betsy's
Word.
not talk about it though.
We'll get Betsy on board. Well,
I mean,
know a lot
if you want to vote on it, that's fine. As the treasurer, I don't recommend spending down our funds because we.
No,
Yeah, actually, that was never really the intention to use it at all.
Right.
I
So,
don't
and
think
we
that
can't
was
vote
the
on
idea.
future funds. So.
Yeah.
That was never my motion. My motion
Yeah.
was what Charlie said, so.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
motion was to move forward with
Okay.
but the-
pursuing that one without funding, but that's fine. I think it's fine to move forward or not move forward with the fourth one and just keep that going. So the next part of our agenda was just we skipped the marketing committee update. Oh no, that's next, marketing committee update, which there really isn't an update. We just have been posting on Facebook. We need to continue posting on Facebook as much as you guys can share things that you see there. Go ahead, Gail.
I did notice, so Charlie had asked me to post the storefronts on the Needham page, and I noticed that the Needham Art Association had posted. I also noticed that when they posted it, they took off the NCAC on it, and they shouldn't be doing that.
Oh, they
So-
tagged us in there.
They tagged us, but the picture,
Oh, that was their picture. That was not mine.
yeah, I mean, but as a general rule, whenever there's a joint project, Our logo also always needs to be on it. This is part of this is why whenever we fund somebody, it has to be on their program. We have to have the logo. They cannot publish anything without our logo. So if that's their, this is a hard and fast rule. If we contribute any money, they always have to include our logo. They can't just have their logo. So we need to make sure that they change that. So this is not us, this is an MCC rule. And if you look at the grantees, when they get their grant paper, it tells them exactly, you have to have this logo. If it's color, it has to be this, and you're supposed to have the right image.
Yeah.
So they can't leave us out, and especially posting that on the Needham page with 16,000 people without our logo. Yes, they tagged us, and I made sure that they can't do that. They should not have their own image that they're propagating anywhere. So that's against MCC rules, and technically they voided their funding. We're not going to take it away. I'm not going to argue with them. They need to
That
add.
funding was funding through us. They're not MCC. They weren't a grant. It was our organization.
It's still money that we voted on and gave to them. That's
Yeah, but we don't really have
line that
requirements on that clearly. So maybe that was something we should have done. And
Yeah.
normally I would totally, absolutely agree with you on all of that, but they have been very careful to put our like include us on every single thing, like made sure to put our name on every time they post. Like they've put, I don't personally, you know, I'm don't know Facebook very well, but I know that they put our name every time they, along
Yeah,
with it, whether they put our
they
logo
did, but it's
on
just
every single
awkward
image.
because the picture says NAA, period. So if you click on the picture and see the storefront.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I hadn't seen it, but I'm looking at it now. I think that's just, we can just ask them. We can provide them our logos and say, if you're going to
Yeah,
post
exactly.
photos
That's
about
all
the
I'm
storefronts,
saying.
please include us.
Sure, they won't mind.
Yeah, but it's also a footer. It's not like they were saying, we did this and then
No,
like
I
added us
know, and
as-
they tagged us and stuff. It was just when I opened it up, I was like, if you click on the picture, like if they're using that as a postcard or something else without us, I just, let's offer up the logo and just say.
It hurts, I think, is the key point. And yes, I think we should ask them and make it clear to them, especially since we just changed our name, and just say, you know, can you please make sure to
That's all.
include us?
Yeah, it wasn't like
No, I
bad
totally-
art association.
No, I agree.
bringing that up.
I agree.
Well, is it the
Well, if-
Storefronts project our project, or is it a joint project, or what, how are they participating with us?
So if you look at what was in the original, it had our logo on the right-hand bottom and their logo on the left-hand bottom. But what they posted on Facebook had only their logo and not ours.
I hear
When
what
you're saying original though, that's just like a post that I put in Facebook. So it's not like they forwarded our posts. In the past, they've taken our post and forwarded it. And, you know, this
Julia
is
knows
like the
what I'm
8th or
talking
9th
about. She's
piece of
looking at it
media
now.
they've done. So that one was just like a photo that they forwarded. So
Yeah,
with
I'm
the
asking
footer,
the arrangement though. What is
you
the
want me to explain what Storefronts Needham, our
Yeah.
arrangement with them is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, are we like almost like a little partnership with them, or they were participating with us? I mean, what was? it's our-
Storefronts Needham is an initiative that the Needham Council for Arts and Culture has partnered with the Economic Development Department of the town of Needham. We selected the Needham Art Association as the first artist to go into this space at 1502 Highland Avenue.
Okay.
They were our partners, and so we've partnered with them. In the storefront window, there's a sign that has a QR code that goes back to our website with a press release about the Needham Art Association. And a lot of their materials, maybe I never provided them with a logo, so that will be something that I can do. But I know in all of their materials, they have referenced us, but in this certain one, it looks like the logo is missing from the footer. So I'll make sure to provide that.
Yeah.
We didn't really have a grant agreement with them that had a press and publicity. So moving forward, if we do grant outside of the granting, we should include that in some sort of contract with them when providing the grant. That's a good idea.
It sounds like they're participating in our program. So it's really our program.
Yeah,
Right.
it says we're so grateful to Needham Council for Arts and Culture for launching the storefront project and for partnering with NAA
Yeah.
to help bring art to Needham Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to make a big thing. It's just when I clicked on it, didn't have our thing on it. That's all.
Yeah, I know. I just,
Small
I
thing.
agree. I just know that they've been very careful and I've worked
Yeah.
closely with them and they've been really amazing at promoting us. So I wonder how, you know, if one thing slips through it, the cracks, I think it's pretty easy to do, but I think you're right, providing the.
I'm sure
logo.
it was not intentional at all, but if we're going to expand it and continue to use it, let's just
Yeah, and
make a small change. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know about what the publicity the high school will do, or even if we can get them to put our logo on some of their stuff. I'm not sure that
We'll
it's
see. They might
press
not
and
be.
publicity is always a very tricky situation. I have found like in the grants that we've given this past year, if we track those, our logo is not on the majority of them. Maybe it's a
Really?
good thing
Because
to move.
technically that voids their grant.
So maybe that's something that we should all follow through on the grants that we were in charge of
Okay.
and double check and make sure that they have used it. Like I checked the Needham Diversity Initiative today and where
But
they,
they got their grant after the program.
yeah, they told me they would still put it on their website though. And their
Oh,
website
okay.
says that they haven't gotten our grant from us since 2017, which is probably,
We've given it to them every year. So
yeah, I mean,
should
and I think
follow
it's, you know, it's nonprofits, it's small businesses, it's people changing, and
yeah.
the people that write the grants aren't always the people that do press, and so. it's
And
a
the
little tricky.
websites are always horribly out of date. Like usually they just throw the event out there, but they don't work on the rest.
We
of
should
it.
actually probably think about putting our logo on our website so that people can download it and
Yeah.
use it easier.
Yeah.
That's a good
So
idea.
this is all good stuff for the marketing committee. Hopefully took the
Sorry,
notes on that one,
I
Julia.
just interrupted the whole report as
No,
usual.
but that was the marketing committee update. So at least we put it in the right place, you guys. All right, we're coming up to 8:30, so we only have two more things on the agenda. Bala has a big announcement for our advocacy update.
Yes, it's great news. As most of you know, for the January budget, Governor Baker approved 16.3 million for the Mass Cultural Council, and now as of 4/14, House Ways and Means budget was released, and it's good news for arts and culture sector. The recommendation, and they've included 20 million for the Mass Cultural Council. So that's the main source of public support for arts and cultural sector in Massachusetts. So we have more money there.
Yeah, that's a 10% increase, so it's really exciting. It's the largest it's been in a long time, but I think it's matched funding from like 1992 or something like that. So
Yeah, it's definitely
we're back to the 90s.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
think it's
awesome.
great recognition for the arts when
Yeah.
the arts have taken such a horrible hit in the pandemic.
The MCC had an interesting study where they said that arts and culture have been hit 20% harder than any other industry during the pandemic. So I thought that was interesting.
Broadway musicians, of which my cousin's kid is one, 97% unemployment rate. For Broadway pit musicians, 97% unemployment rate. And it's very sad. It's very hard because they can't even get jobs waiting and waiting tables. There are no restaurants. So as he said, a lot of his friends have gone home to live with parents with children in tow. They've had to give up apartments and houses, and it's really hard. It's
tough.
very sad.
Elizabeth, what did you want to say? Oh, yeah, I think you're still muted. But I know the SVOG grant opened today, so hopefully the Save Our Stages funding will come through for some people too.
Yeah.
The shuttered venues.
It's the question, Charlie,
Yeah.
Vala, and to you. Isn't there a new head of the Mass Culture of Arts at the
Michael
state
Bobbitt.
level, which is the one that lobbied for the 20 million? And I just wonder if there's ever an occasion in Needham where we could invite him to something that we're doing, maybe when we get this mural or some such thing, to just put our hands up.
Inauguration. Yeah.
And so I think we ought to cultivate him. It's a him, right, Bala?
Mhm.
Yep.
And with a letter or I don't know what, but we'd be doing ourselves a service and get a little bit bigger in our thinking to cultivate him.
Sounds
I like
good.
the sound of that.
Great idea.
Bala, did you have anything else or should we move on?
No, that's all for me.
Okay, scheduling and other business, last thing, we're gonna make it by 8:30, I feel like. We are officially moving our meetings to Tuesdays, so we can skip these crazy Monday holidays. And Anne will be able to join us again and all these wonderful things. So our next meeting is May 17th. And then June 21st after that.
May
May
18th
18th, great, okay, sorry, I didn't update that.
and
Not May 17th, May
22nd.
In June.
Actually, no, June 15th is the third Tuesday.
Oh, there's probably a reason why we put June. Okay, June 15th. So we'll put those in the minutes for the
So wait.
next time.
Okay, June 15th?
May 18th and June 15th. Oh, I know why we had June 21st. I think it wasn't available for originally when we scheduled. So if it's still, if
I actually think that the 21st is the third Monday, but the 5th, June starts on a Tuesday. So the 15th
Okay.
is the third Tuesday.
great. The other thing is, I don't know how I missed this one, but
Wait, so
We-
which is the date that we're meeting? Was it available for the 15th?
I don't think availability matters anymore. So it's the third
Oh, 'cause we have
Tuesday of the
multiple
month.
licenses.
So June
Okay.
15th.
June
Thank you.
15th. We traditionally don't meet over the summer. We usually skip July and August. But the one thing that I didn't talk about was for our reception. There was the idea to actually meet in person. We were thinking about possibly doing that over the summer. And then there was the idea of having a Zoom meeting, which we could do on June 15th within our, we could invite people to a reception on our June 15th meeting and have that be an actual reception instead, because I think usually the June meeting has been the reception. Would anybody like to be in charge of running a reception?
Are
I
you
think that
talking a
would
live one or a Zoom one?
a Zoom reception.
Yeah.
I think it would entail maybe us having a presentation, which would have images from the grantees, invite the grantees, and possibly breakout rooms and have a little chat, and that would be our Zoom thing. Amy is going to check on if we could actually have a meeting in person. Kathy had suggested the Needham Community Council has a tent that they're lending out to people to go out in the yard. I think people, if we have the reception in June, people will still be more comfortable doing it virtual, which is what we discussed last time. So,
Yep.
So is anybody interested in being in charge of setting up how a Zoom virtual reception would look?
I'm happy to help with scheduling and organizing, but not running, the technical parts of it or anything else like that.
Amy, can you
help with
do
the
breakout
Because
rooms?
I just
with the
did that.
webinar?
I've been doing that all year for an organization. I've been doing their scheduling and organizing their events like that.
Yeah, because actually maybe that's something I need to talk to Amy more about, because open meeting law doesn't allow public comment, but usually our receptions are in spaces, but they're not public. Have they been public meetings in the past, Sharon? The receptions
Yeah.
where everybody's
Well,
been
they're open
invited?
to, I guess they are open to everyone. Do we post that they're happening, the receptions?
I thought we did, but we do say, we invite people and say, you're allowed to bring as many people as you want. Like, we didn't say this invitation is only for you. We said, please, join us, bring anybody else, pass it on to your organization.
I don't remember posting it as a public meeting though, like all.
No,
our-
but we
like
didn't do
anyone.
that. 2 years
I don't
ago,
know
we
if it
didn't do
is.
that.
I don't know if it
Period.
is. I think it's a reception for grantees. I mean, I
And
think,
future, it was also for people that,
well, it's
were
open to
not
the community.
grantees.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
because we, for example, we had the president of NAA back then, which is how we made the connection. We had people who had not even applied for a grant, but wanted to learn more about us. So,
And Mo would
but we
come
did
all the
not,
time.
we did not post it as a public meeting because we weren't posting things as public meetings in the same
Are
way
you
that we
talking
did.
about the reception at North Hill?
Yes,
Yeah, the one we did 2 years ago.
Well, there's been 2, I think, since I've been here.
Mm.
Yeah,
That certainly was a limited group.
Yeah, I
So we
anticipate maybe
invited
10
like
guests.
100 people.
yeah,
though.
we
Yeah.
invited our whole mailing list. It's just that
Yeah.
no one
No,
shows
not
up.
a lot of people
So
came.
the
but like,
question is,
Nobody comes.
yeah.
Amy, can we do meetings as opposed to webinars?
We absolutely can.
Okay.
As far as breakout rooms, I need to get clarification on that, so.
Can you make someone who's not a town employee a co-host?
You have to, the license that we have for the town of Needham, I can only make somebody a co-host if they are actually a licensed user.
Mm.
So, I mean,
A
I can
licensed
certainly.
user for
Sharon,
the
you're a
town.
licensed user. Oh, of
I
the
mean, I have a
town?
pro account, but it has to be a pro account for the town, right?
I believe so,
Okay.
yes.
I mean, I have a pro account through work, but but that doesn't help you at all.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
let me, I will find out tomorrow and I can circle back with you, Charlie, and let you know about.
Okay. I mean, I'm happy to do that. I'm.
Although we should be so
events
lucky that we
for
get
a year,
enough
so.
people that we want breakout rooms.
That's why I figured kind of combining this date of June 15th and inviting the maybe 5 to 10 people who will show up all in one and entertain them with some comedy bits and some pictures.
Well, we usually have a speaker. I mean, we should.
I know, but I just can't do an hour-long speaker again on a Zoom
Right.
call. And I really don't feel like anybody wants to listen to anyone for an
So
hour on
Do
this.
we really want to do that, or do we want to just defer to September and do a open to grantees? Do it, we could even do it in person where if we're still cautious about groups, we could do it in shifts so that we say, it's like an open house, but come like in these spaces and sign up for a space. And then we can meet people and talk to people and schmooze. And
I think
as
time is
opposed to
short.
Zoom again, because people are like, this is lovely. I want all my meetings on Zoom so I don't have to leave the house, get there, drive, rush after dinner and come back. But for receptions and stuff, I think people are kind of done at this point.
Well, I've done them online. I
Yeah.
think time
I
is
know.
short is the key, I think
Yeah.
now. I
Yeah,
think
we
we're
did.
not-
We
we're
did one
just running up
yesterday.
against- We would want to plan this a couple months ago. Usually when we plan the in-person event, we plan it. So
I
we
mean,
can
it's
put that in
basically going to be
information.
us all talking at once at each other unless we manage it where each person gets to talk for 2 minutes. And do we all want to hear each other talk for 5 minutes about
No, I
the
would do
project?
some kind of presentation of what we've done for the year, or something about who we are, or our name change, or on our art. We could do that. And then we might do breakout rooms, you
Or
could
you
have a
could do
music room and an
polls.
art room and
Yeah,
that sort of
you could
stuff.
do fun polls. You could do,
And by you could
random
do,
trivia.
is that you volunteering, Gail?
In
Well,
my
it all
spare
depends. This is
time,
more a
absolutely
license
not.
issue.
I have 0 time.
This is more
Okay.
a license issue.
So
Yeah.
can we table this discussion to the May meeting?
To May.
then?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I think
would.
so.
I would, and let's think about fall.
Fantastic. Well, keep thinking about it. In the meantime,
Yes.
I'll work on a survey and maybe a newsletter. And then we'll see how happy we all are with that. Put that all in one together and send that out.
And you'll
Okay, I
talk
think-
with me and Bala about anything you want us to prepare for the May 15th meeting on the mural.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, other business. Did anyone want to bring anything else up before we adjourn? Fantastic. Thank you all for hanging in there. Very successful. 8:38. We are adjourned. We'll
Thank
see you all
you.
on May 18th.
Great.
Yes.
Got it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Stay healthy.